So listen, welcome to Business Success by Design podcast. I'm your host, James Lawson. And today, for the first time ever, I have a guest. So my good friend, Rahman Parker, has decided to join us for this podcast. So Rahman, I am delighted that you're here. Thanks for making the trip and coming over. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about a bunch of stuff. The most important thing I want to talk about is Dream Maker. We're going to get to that. Right, this is really exciting stuff. You and I met because of your father, your dad.
Yes, that's right.
Who, by the way, is like the single greatest guy you'll ever meet. I love Joseph to death. But you came to one of our, I think it was quarterly planning sessions, right? Came to that. And so that was the first time you got exposed to the James effect. Right? So what was that like for you? Like your dad drags you along to this damn thing. You'd never met us. How was that experience for you?
Well, thanks for having me. So it was interesting. So he calls me and says, hey man, I want you to come to this event with me. It's about like marketing and planning. This guy's really helped my business grow. And I had watched his business grow because he wasn't growing. And then all of a sudden he started to get some traction. I was like, well, I need to go check these people out because I too need the same kind of work. And so what I liked about it was the fact that you're actually getting work done while you're there.
Right.
A lot of times you go to these events, oh, it's a chamber event. Oh, it's a, activity. Oh, we're going to talk about something on a panel and it'll be this big topic, marketing, or it'll be, budgeting or planning. And then someone talks to you for an hour and a half and then you have to throw your business card to everybody after that. It's like, wait a minute. I mean, I took notes, but I didn't really leave with anything. I think that helped me actually to we'll get to Dream Maker later, but that actually helped me to understand that if I'm going to take a business owner's time, I'm going to make sure I give them time to work on it and then have something tangible they take with them and go home. Because when I did, I still look at those planning sheets. What's the timing? Who's your customer? Why are you doing what you're doing? When would you implement this? Who would this be directed to? How often would you? I mean, it's the frequency, all those questions that were asked.
Yeah, the cadence. Right?
The cadence, right. How that all gets teased out, while you're working in class, so to speak. So I thought it was cool because I was kind of going back to school, but I was doing it really for my business.
Right.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Right. Yeah. So that was great. I love the introduction. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Yeah. So I went from healthcare finance, being executive director of a nonprofit to working actually in complete business finance. And it took me a while to get there, but I think what helped me actually was one conversation with a gentleman who, very wealthy business owner in Loudoun County, a real sharp guy. And he said, I told him, I said, hey, here's a value service for my business. Here's how much I make out of that. Here's how the business can grow doing 1, 2, and 3. I had a phone conversation with him for like 15 minutes. He said, listen, man, he said, you can do some really big things. He said, you got some really big intangibles. I love the way you work with data and finance. You probably should look at that. He said, but I think you got a good future ahead of you. I said, thanks so much. I appreciate it. So it was nice of him to say that and for him to take the time to actually, listen to me. And so I think from there, I said, okay, cool. I always wanted to change the business of healthcare, but I think in order to do that, I've got to come back as a funder and do that. And so I said to myself, all right, so I'll build something, a financial juggernaut that has a bunch of different service lines in it that can get me the funding I'll get to come back and then start investing in healthcare and being able to change the business of healthcare that way. And that's kind of how I started Silver. Yeah.
So this thing that you've built that you're now out there with, right? Tell me a little bit about how this is all put together, because you and I have met multiple times and you've explained it to me multiple times and I'm still trying to get it through my head of exactly, I get the outcome.
Right.
Like I get that part.
Right.
But I'm still trying to draw the line a little bit about how all this shit works. Because it sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I like tech. I like the tech stuff.
Like you got to.
Yeah. So walk me through a little bit, just so the people who might be watching this, they go, hey, that's like something I might want to get involved in.
Yeah. So SLVR, Silver Financial, is a holding group. So if you think of that as kind of the umbrella organization of what I'm doing here.
Right.
There are 3 different service lines, or what I call them. They really are businesses, each of them, but they each have a technological component to them. So the 3 verticals would be strategic management, access to capital, and then business services, which sounds kind of vague, but I'll get to that in a second. So strategic management, that was really helping clients understand how they need to put together their budgets, strategic plan, what's your operating agreement. If you're working with multiple people in your business, how do you all agree on paper so you don't fight each other and go to court and have all these mistakes? So the structure and your strategy are part of that. That falls under Dream Maker. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. And so then there's access to capital. So with access to capital, I have a software decision engine. So there's a tech component to that too. So that's something where if you're a business, you need some funding, you need either to scale or grow what you have currently, or you want to sell, or you're saying, you know what, I just started out. I've got my own job that I work. I'm still trying to work that. I make really good money there, but I want to do something different. I want to do X. Okay, great. So now you've set that aside. You know how much money you need for X. You log on. That's called Zactus. So Zactus.com. You log on to there. You get a chance to see what services we provide with that. It's just software and a survey. Fill out a survey, 25 plus questions. We say thanks. That information gets pushed to funders. So the funders then say, oh, he's got a couple organizations that need money. We're going to fund 1, 2, and 3. Right.
So okay, does this work almost like, so it's, don't want to call it a lead generation engine, but it sounds a little bit like a lead generation engine where you're putting this stuff into the market. And then there's people who are out there who are looking at this and saying, this looks like a viable idea.
That's right.
Let me go check this out.
That's right.
Okay. And it's all happening without people putting pitches together, or does that come later? Or is that something where...
I think putting the pitches, so answering the questions kind of helps formulate a pitch.
Okay.
So those 25 plus questions become almost a storyline. My name's Rahman Parker. I created Silver Financial. I want people to get access to capital and help move their business forward. I've been operating since 2020. There's my address. Here's my business number. I have an EIN number.
All right.
And I do these 3 things. Right.
Okay.
So that becomes kind of a pitch.
Right.
And that gets packaged along with, you know, the questions that a bank or another lending institution would ask you. And then that gets scored. And then that way that gets presented to banks. Now, the nice part is with this software, we're actually going to add some other pieces to it so that it's a shared risk model software, because banks don't want...
See, he's using fancy words now.
Yeah. Banks don't want me to say, hey, listen, James, I have somebody here for you and they look great. Why don't you give them some money? Like, well, wait a minute. I need to kind of guarantee that they're going to pay somebody back.
Sure.
How in the world do I do that? So with the algorithm we put together, we're able to quantify character, concessions, and collateral, kind of understand what people need for those things.
So here's why this intrigues me, right? Because this is not all about me, it's you, but I'm going to talk about me for a second.
Please.
Years ago, before we started the business, I worked for a company in Towson, Maryland.
Okay.
And what they did was I'm talking scientists. So they had like a bunch of scientists on staff. And what they did was they built predictability models for the credit industries.
Yep.
And so what they would do is they would look at how your spending pattern is. And so when you went to get a credit card, so you have like TransUnion and these guys, right? You go get your credit score.
Right.
And what they would look at is how you've been behaving historically so that they could predict how you might behave going forward. And that was then going to affect your credit score and your ability to get credit. This was really cool shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really cool stuff. Not that's what this is, but it sounds a little bit like it's kind of like that, where we're looking at these characteristics and saying, outside of X, maybe what the banks look at,
Mhm.
you're taking it a stage further,
That's
or
right.
2 stages further, and saying, yeah, this isn't the whole picture.
Right.
There's other stuff here that you're going to have to consider and look for
Right.
that might make James a better bet than you actually think he is.
Mhm.
Would that be a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. So we're taking
See, I learn stuff. I listen and I learn.
And you know fancy words too, like predictive analysis, right? So so we take that piece and we're combining, our what we call secret sauce in our questionnaire, and then in the algorithm itself, those things get married together, and then you've got, a Zactus package, and that Zactus package is what gets sent to fractional reserve banking,
Right.
the typical banks, and then in some other institutions as well that do alternative lending. So some of your fintechs too, they're allowed to participate in this as well.
So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit.
Yeah.
Is this something that you've always wanted to do? I mean, is like the entrepreneur thing a thing you've always wanted, or is it something you just kind of fell into?
That's a good question too. I think it's a little of both. So I
Right.
always wanted to have my own company at some point. I watched my dad do it. I watched a couple of my uncles do it. I watch even my mom, she's got a nonprofit now she's putting together. And so I'm really proud of the way she's doing that with her work with the churches. And so I said, well, man, it's really probably in my blood anyway to do this, because both my parents are doing something like that.
Right.
But I will say for sure that being at a management consulting firm after leaving nonprofit leadership, I said, okay, cool, this is nice. When I found out what my multiplier was, I said, uh-oh. I think I need to do something else. And so that was the first uh-oh. The second uh-oh was when I was in meetings with government executives, and when I wasn't in the room, they said, well, where is he? We need him for this meeting. So
Okay.
wait a minute. So now not only is this something
so there's a value there, right?
there it is. So
Right.
I was like, wait a minute. So now not only am I bringing value, not only am I feeling uncomfortable, but I've got some ideas that are pretty disruptive that I think I could put out to the market. So because of those three things, I kind of fell into it that way.
You know what's funny is, so Ange and I were on a podcast a few weeks back, and the guy who did the pod, we've known him for years, like years and years and years, and he had this assumption that Angela and I got into this business like this was something we'd always wanted to do.
Right.
And I was like, you couldn't be further from the truth.
It's hard work.
Right? I mean, you'll remember 2008, 2009, right? The markets crashed. People were losing homes. I mean, it was a really tough time. And so both Ange and I, we get kicked out of our jobs within like 3 months of each other.
Oh.
Right. So we're sitting going, what are we going to do? And so I believe, I don't know if it's true because I have no empirical evidence to support this statement, but I believe it's true. I think the vast majority of people get into business ownership because their life has been disrupted. I don't know that it's something they wake up one day and go, I've always been an entrepreneur. Yeah. It's not the kid that's starting at 14.
No.
And doing stuff and then building and that's entrepreneurship, right? That's all they know. I think that most people, there's something happens in their life, whether it's through the job or getting riffed, right, as we did, and then going, all right, what are we going to do next?
Yeah, I've been riffed.
All right. Which is what we did. And honestly, we went through that whole gambit of, do we go back to corporate? Right. We try and find jobs. And then it was a friend of ours who went, have you ever thought about entrepreneurship? And we went, hell no. Right. And then of course we get into the whole franchise model, right? Stuff. Right. So, and for me, I'm like, well, I like the idea of a franchise. I just can't have anything that I can eat. so having a McDonald's, not good. Right. Yeah. None of that stuff. I went, no Wendy's. No. I say, so no brick and mortar. So just, that's why I'm asking the question, Ari. I'm thinking, was this a plan or was it just something that you kind of slid into?
Yeah, I think it probably did come from riffing. I remember one time a lady at work, I was at a cube, I'm doing my work, and all of a sudden she walks up to me, she's like, what are you doing here? It's like, your wings are too big to be here.
All right.
And I said, what does that mean? She said, look at you. You just kind of sit at this desk. You really don't even fit. He's like, you just don't get to fit here. I was like, okay, all right. And then months later, I found out the project's being strategically paused,
Right.
So you got to figure out how you're going to start. Okay, well, how do I do that? So now this is paused. What am I going to do? And I think I went to a conference in February of 2020, right before COVID hit. There was a lady who was doing real estate investing. And so I went around and did all the work what everybody else had my clipboard. Again, same thing with you. She had work for us to do. So you're actually working. So that's probably where all this is coming from. But when I did that, I said, I don't want to fix and flip houses. I mean, I've done that. My Home Depot, I helped my parents fix the house. I was the only one doing stuff anyway. I was a contractor, kid contractor. So I was like, I don't want to do that, but I do want to finance these deals.
So was Joseph one of these guys like, do this, do that, or was he showing you how to do it? Was it?
Oh yeah. So my dad, we talked about this the other day because we actually worked together for the first time on a project we're doing right now.
Okay.
So I'm helping with some data work that he needs, analysis work that one of the historically Black colleges needs, and so we're helping them with that. And so we were in the car talking. He said, "Man, I was a bad dad." I said, "You got to stop saying that." I said, "You were a great dad. It was great because I had discipline, but I had order." And I told him, I said, you always said, this is a benevolent dictatorship. I had a voice, but I never had a vote.
Right.
So I could say I don't want to help, clean the gutters, but I had to learn how to do it anyway if I have a house. So
I don't mind you having an opinion. Right. However, it's not going to change the final decision.
It's cool. You say what you want.
Yeah.
But again, we're going to do things this way. And so that's kind of that's how I live. So I clean gutters. I did all that stuff. And so when I went to that conference, like, I'm not doing that again. I said, but to get these people 15,000, 150,000, 200,000, that seems kind of cool because it changes their entire countenance when they talk about it.
Right.
So we did kind of a model of that at the conference where I was looking at deals and she just kind of kept feeding me deals on paper. On a screen, look at this house. Look at this. What do you think? I was like, oh, well, the loan LTV is probably not that good. ARV doesn't look that great, but it's not a bad house. They just have to fix like 4 things. So I can give you money for those 4 things. They each cost 100,000. That's 400,000. You got to do the repairs. You probably should ask for 1.2 million instead of 800 that it's listed at.
Right.
Because you still need money for these repairs.
Got to fix it up.
And so I was like, cool, I'd do something like that. That's kind of cool. And when we did that in the mock, kind of trying it, the thing, people were like, oh, thanks so much. And they walk away like, oh man. And then the people, I was like, no, they were like, what do I have to do? I said, well, you still have to do, these things. And so I guess that's kind of how I slid into it. If some of it was forced by what am I going to do with these big wings I have that this lady's yelling at me about, or am I gonna stay where I am, or am I gonna decide that that thing that kind of made me feel happy at that conference I went to when I was off work, that was kind of cool. Well, and I started looking at that, and that's kind of how it started. So about 5 years ago now, almost just over 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go off track again.
Please.
So this is I have such an affection for your father.
I appreciate it.
But your mom.
Yeah.
Because your mom was one smart cookie as well.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your mom.
Well, I always say she's the brains of the operation. So my mother graduated from Norfolk State University in 3 years with a physics degree.
Wow.
So she's absolutely the litmus test for brilliance that I've ever seen. She's definitely one of the most intelligent women I've ever met, even to this day. And she's very humble about it. She's not going to throw her degrees at you and all this stuff she knows. She can say, well, listen, honey, do you need help with this? Let me show you how this works.
She has a multiple, right?
Well, yeah. So she does Masters of Divinity. She also has her degree of physics stuff, but she's also, my parents are really living Black history if you think about it. So my mom helped with RFID tags when they first started doing that for tractor trailers, like UPS and FedEx adopted those technologies after she worked on that with some of these businesses that were in the area here. My dad helped with some of the first unmanned aircraft. I remember in show and tell, people's parents were lawyers and they were doctors. They were like 3 or 4 of us were like, we don't know what our parents do. But then one year,
And even if we did, we couldn't tell you.
yeah, I don't know. My dad has a bunch of badges. Anyway, so one day he shows up with this little like airplane looking thing. It's like, what is that? I was like, that's kind of cool. He's like, oh yeah, I helped make that. So some of the first drones you see
Right.
in the 80s, late 80s, he did those.
That's
So I was
just
like,
so
cool,
cool.
my dad makes like remote control airplanes. So
Right.
so at the end, my mom is absolutely beautiful spirit. She helps to, I think she helps show women how they can still be women and still be smart and
Sure.
not have to be something they're not. That my mom has been that example for me, that you
Right.
can be whatever you want to be, just be you.
Yeah, be you.
And the rest is going to follow. My
Yeah.
dad, he had a different corporate struggle that way, where he had to kind of not be too big and boisterous in a room because he's tall. I had that same issue. You can't talk with your hands. You can't do this stuff. You got to sit still and
Right.
be corporate. So, it's a different, I think they learn different models.
Let's talk about Dream Maker.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Right. So you've been on this kick
Mm-hmm.
for a while,
Mm-hmm.
about launching this conference.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what was the impetus for this, and what your longer term vision is.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I think this was 2 years ago now. I ended up like, I was watching TV, and I was reading a book about venture capital, and talks about dream makers and venture capital and how you can succeed in that. I was like, that's a cool name, Dream Maker. I was like, well, what would you do that for? So anyway, I have a lot of URLs that I own.
Okay, you're like
And
me, but you just go buy them.
Yeah, think about it. So this was in that rhythm. I was like, okay, cool. So Dream Maker, as spelled out with everything out, the vowels and everything didn't make sense. I was like, wait a minute, Silver doesn't have all this vowels. Why would
It's
I do that?
LVR.
All right, so for branding, why would I do that? Why not just call it DRMKKR as I do that? I think it was available. I was like, oh, buy that. So I bought it instantly, and I said,
Hold on. DR.
MMKR, right.
You
So
can
I
get
took
you can
out,
get a license plate.
yeah, probably. I probably should. That's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Now,
No, if I get there first.
vanity plates. Yeah, that's good. That's a good
vanity
idea.
plate.
Actually,
Dream Maker. What the hell?
I
I
hadn't
love
thought
that.
about that. Oh, well,
Holy shit.
and I was just at DMV getting my license renewed. Anyway,
There you
so I should have done that.
Yeah,
I said, I don't know. I kind of just put it to the side. I was like, I'll use that for something. That's just kind of cool. So then fast forward to earlier this year, probably about January, I was with a group of friends of mine that are starting their own businesses, and they're kind of, I call them guinea pig clients in a way. I think it's a proof of concept. So the clients I have today, the dozen clients I have today, have been almost guinea pigs for me to kind of, service delivery. How do I do that? How does it work? And they've all adopted and all enjoy what I'm doing. So I was over at my buddy's house. He's in a conference. He invited me over, some ladies that were there, and I was typing on my computer, and I had the URLs up, and I was trying to play with DreamMaker, like the site, just kind of make a site just to kind of, what would I use this for? While they're doing their work. This lady sitting next to me, she's like, what is that? What it says DreamMaker? It's like, yeah. Okay, I get it. You just took out all the vowels. She's like, why would you do that? I said, well, it's a 6-letter URL. That's kind of cool. But aside from that, I just want to shorten the time period for people to make their dreams a reality. So I just decided on that. So the other people that were there sitting around the kitchen table listening, they were like, huh? I said, yeah, like, well, what do you do? I was like, oh, and my buddy Corey was like, yeah, explain to them what you do. I said, well, I just help people with their business ideas. And every business idea has a lot of facets to it.
For sure.
So I can't do everything. So I've got to get partners like you and other folks to say, okay, cool. A business needs marketing. It needs, budgeting. It needs financing. So I want to be able to put that together for clients and package it, and that'll be the company. So I'll do strategic management through DreamMaker. Got it. Good. I said, well, that's cool, but I've only got 12 clients. How am I going to get this out to more people about this? And I said, well, you know what? I can capture more people. I just start a conference. And the lady sitting next to me said, you should just do that.
Yeah.
I was like, how you just do that? She's like, just do it. I said, okay. So I sat there using some of the plans I've had from you, kind of cadence. How would I do? What would the marketing be? What would it be? What's this? Take 6 months to do it. I'm a little short of that this first time. Whatever. I'm still going to do it anyway. I've got nothing but traction since then. I think it's the premise of what it is by giving people an opportunity to look at every facet of their business for 2 days and just shut down and stop.
Right.
And say, okay, cool. I'm going to look at the strategy and structure on day one. I'm going to look at financing, getting money tomorrow. So I can just focus for these 2 days. By the end of the weekend, I'll have an operating plan. I'll have a risk management plan.
Right.
I'll have a $10,000 line of credit, or at least somebody who will give me that. If I just send them my tax records, they already know I have a working business. So now that I've got those things, I've met all these things, I've got everything I need. So now I can grow. I can use that 10,000 for marketing. I can use it for, equipment, whatever it needs to be used for. And then I'll make the money. I'll pay them back. But Dreammaker becomes almost a funnel to capture more folks and give them that same experience I'm giving the 12 people I give today when I see them smiling. Thanks, man. Hey, another thing, I had a question. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Hey, I had another question. They just keep calling. I keep answering. And that's cool. I make money doing that, but it's the public health guy in me, I think, that looks at a solution as not just for each individual patient that needs it as a treatment. I see it as a community of people who would need that. And I want to give the community the treatment that they need. And so that's how Dreammaker came about. So
awesome.
So yeah.
But part of this is also getting them to a position where you can actually put them in front of funders.
Right.
Like people that can actually fund the business.
Right. You talked about pitching, and that's coming next. So that's after Dreammaker. That's a secret. I guess they're getting exclusive. But anyway, that's coming next. A way to capture community of people that need help pitching for finance. Because especially in this area, in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, technology is master here. And if you have a decision engine, you have software, you have a process, you have an app, you have something that's going to, again, shorten someone's time to market or answer a problem of some sort, you need to put that out there.
Right.
But when you talk to people with money, they're going to ask you questions.
And you better be ready.
You can't just have this 18-second pitch thing. Well, people with their business ideas. That sounds great. So how do you monetize that? I do it through Dreammaker as Actus and through the business services, which we'll talk about later. But so you have to have that down cold, and you have to know, that's what I want to do, and be serious about it, and actually have some passion about it, because you can't manufacture it. You can't fake that.
Right. So we've got dates for Dreammaker.
We do.
On what are the dates?
June 19th and June 20th. So that's actually on Juneteenth this year.
Okay.
And then start at 8 a.m., done at 6:30, come right back the next day, do the exact same thing. So during those 2 days, the first half of the day is classroom instruction, lessons, teaching, getting people to understand, why do you need a budget? What's the best strategy for your branding? What makes you such a great company versus your competitors? They'll be in class for those first from 9:30 to 12:30. After that, we have lunch. Lunch is a great time to network, talk to people. There are funders who will be walking around who are in class also too, who may just kind of be checking it out. And then the afternoon is on you. It's that working session.
All right.
It's the papers you get from class in the morning where you start writing stuff out, start typing stuff out, start talking with people about your pitch, start telling people what you do. I need a bookkeeper. I need someone who does state planning and law. I need someone who looks at health statistics because my staff is sick all the time. Why are they always sick?
Okay.
They're working from home. What do you do? So I've got, banks coming too. So that's from 12 to 6:30 is on you. You can network, do whatever. But what I will say, and I'll say this again at the event we start, please don't come to me later and say, I didn't have any time at Dreammaker to get my work done. I didn't get a chance to meet anybody. So either that means you didn't walk, you kept your eyes closed, or you were asleep the entire time.
Right. Because
there's too much opportunity with the amount of knowledge that's coming from not only panelists who will speak, but also from the instructors there, where if you don't leave knowing the next step in your business, then I don't know what to tell you.
So at this point, can you share anything about who might be speaking at the event, or You want to keep that under your hat? It's totally fine.
Oh no, yeah, no, it's fine. I'm actually the MC is actually a native Washingtonian, Mr. Dale Walters. He was on the news for a long time here in DC.
Okay.
Over the last 20 years, he's on WJLA and he's moved around and he's coming back. And he himself is in the middle of business deals, if I can say that without getting in trouble. So I'm looking to help him with his work too.
Right.
I've got to reach out to him. But he said, "Hey man, we've been friends for years." And I always told him, I said, "Well, you get an opportunity to help me. So here's how I need your help." He said, "I'm there." So he's going to be that. I have a 13-year MBA veteran, Tony Massenberg, is coming. He's going to help get us started, help people understand to get their mindset right for doing business. And I've got, 3 funders. 2 are banks and one's a private funder who's going to talk as well about how real estate investing and other financial investments have helped them to see how investing in businesses are really important. So yeah, and I've got another one.
Cool. We're not going to talk about that one yet.
Oh, we got somebody from the SBA coming. So
very cool.
SBA official coming. So yep, Larry Webb will be there too. So he's a big district.
Oh, Larry's a good guy.
Real good guy.
Yeah, Larry's a very good guy.
So he called me and said, you want me to come to this event on Juneteenth weekend? I said, are you busy? He said, I'll come. He said, I'll come check it out.
Good.
Yeah, so that's good.
So we've got a full lineup.
Full lineup of good people. I think there's some new faces there too that people will see, and they're very specific faces too. Companies who are looking at businesses who are looking to exit too. Because remember, there are 3 types of people who can come to the event. Those who are emerging, just starting out. Those. I love them. Yeah, that's James' group. So then there's some who are existing, who are in business like us, who
love them too.
Yeah, who probably need just a little kick to kind of move forward. And then those who are saying, listen, I'm done.
Right.
Time out, tap out, throw the flag, however you want to say it. I'm done with this business thing. Who wants it? Right.
So early stage, people in growth, and then people are looking to exit.
There you go.
That's our 3 silos.
Those are the 3 silos. Those are the tracks you can take, and there are classes based on each of those tracks. Can you jump tracks and move around? Yes.
You can, but if your business at a certain place, you don't want to be jumping too far.
And I think that's where, someone on the team asked me that, well, you should write that somewhere they can do that. I was like, no. Because if someone comes there, they're going to get a lanyard. When you come to Dreammaker, and you're going to get a sticker on your.
It tells what people you are.
That's right. So yellow is for emerging, right? Green is for existing, and purple is for exiting, right? So almost like Mardi Gras colors. So yeah, so people will walk around saying, oh, well, yeah, if you're looking to sell, man, we have a huge portfolio of technology that we do for HVAC or for X, whoever they're talking to. Maybe we should sit down after lunch and have a meeting. And you can do that there too. And there'll also be vendors there too. So I've got some vendors who are in healthcare, law, also finance, and then kind of business services. So like we talked about before.
Cool. Should be a blast.
I look forward to it.
So how can folks get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you? I
think honestly, I stopped loving the phone now because I'm getting busy and I actually have clients. The phone was cool before, but I just think rparker@slvrfinancial.com. Email me, I'll see it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I don't have a lot of layers, so I'll be able to help.
Oh, brother, listen, it has been a blast.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much
for
coming in.
For sure.
Can't wait for the Dreammaker.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hoot.
So afterwards, we're going to have to do this and let people know the numbers, right? The stats.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're at a point now where I have people asking me to do stuff and I have every slot filled. So no more speakers, no more trainers. We've got everything set up.
Right now, just fill the room.
Fill the room. On your advice, you helped me shape this thing. So I appreciate it. Yep.
All right, brother.
We're going to fill
it. All right. Well, thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
This is going to be a blast.
Cool.
If you've got any questions or comments, feel free to leave them underneath, or you can even email me. But if you feel you're in that space that Rahman can help you with, reach out and we'll get you connected. All right. Thanks so much. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, brother.